All right, on this video, I'm going to be covering the 5 biggest post-Kickstarter launch profit killers. And if you are a creator and especially a comic book creator who is planning a Kickstarter, or maybe you've had a Kickstarter in the past, some of these are going to be familiar to you. But if you're new to the Kickstarter and crowdfunding game, I really hope you'll tune in and watch this video because you're going to want to be paying careful to these 5 post-Kickstarter profit killers that a lot of comic creators experience. And, you know, this one is especially relevant to me where I'm at right now, because like if you looked at my bank account over the past several months and you had no context, you'd think I was, you know, spending money like a drunken sailor. I've cut like at least one 5-figure check and multiple 4-figure checks left, right, and center. But the reality is, like, that's just a part of the game. I wrapped up a Kickstarter campaign recently. I'm also gearing up for a big holiday shopping season and need to restock some inventory. And so that's just kind of how it goes. But one of the things that I've learned from over 20 successful Kickstarter launches is that Kickstarter money, when it comes in, it like more than just about anything else, it wants to go out the door. And so a lot of times success is not about how much you make during your Kickstarter campaign. It's actually about how much you're able to keep and reinvest and put in your pocket for all your hard work. And so I wanted to share some training and just share some stuff with you on these 5 biggest profit killers that a lot of comic creators are coming up against. And actually, this is going to be a training that are not just all my ideas. I actually crowdsourced the creation of this little video with the members of the Comics Launch Pro community. And these are successful comic book creators inside our community. We've now raised over $1.4 million for comic projects collectively. And so there's a lot of wisdom there and a lot of experience in, you know, what happens after the Kickstarter launch and where some more money than it should goes to. And so I'm going to be sharing some of what our community has shared with me. But I did want to also let you know something coming up is that I often found that when it comes to profit and post-launch profits, the best defense is often a good offense, and the best defense against unexpected profit killers is actually keeping that revenue coming in after the launch is over. So I have a new free training coming up. It's called How to Raise Significantly More Funding After Your Kickstarter is Over Without a Lot of Time and Effort. And this is a training. It's not ready yet, but if you want it, just type the word post-launch in the comments and I will make sure that you get it as soon as it's ready. But you gotta tag yourself so that I remember, or so that I'm able to go and contact you, because I don't have a page set up. The training is not available yet. Should be available very soon. So just put the word post-launch in the comments and I will make sure that you get that training. All right, so let's dive into it. The 5 biggest post-Kickstarter profit killers for comic creators. Number 1 with a bullet, probably the most frequently commented on thing from the members in my community. And if any of these resonate with you, if you've had any experience with any of these profit killers, please let me know in the comments of this video. Also, I'd love to hear what your biggest post-launch profit killers, or maybe that mistake that really cost you. Please let me know in the comments if you've had that experience. But number 1 with a bullet from my community is shipping. And so what we have is a comment that Frank Martin, who has had many successful Kickstarter campaigns, but he commented, shipping, always shipping. And we've had other creators. Alton Simpson said, you really need to make sure that you're including the correct shipping costs and capture that up front when you launch your Kickstarter campaigns, because if you don't, it's going to bite you. And this is something that I think creators have gotten better at over time. But in the early days, a lot of creators were launching Kickstarters and just basically throwing up a shipping cost based on what they think it should cost. right? And the reality is what we think it should cost to ship something. I don't know if you've been to the post office lately, but rarely is that what it actually costs to ship that same thing. And so I wanted to make sure that you know that it's part of your job to figure out what the costs are so that you don't avoid this mistake. Sometimes, though, it's not all our fault. Anthony Christou, creator in Australia, very talented creator, a lot of Kickstarter success. But he's shared that unexpected postage increase, especially things that have happened sort of recently with the COVID crisis and everything. He's found that in some cases and for some shipping groups, the fees and the postage costs are almost double what they were when he planned and launched his Kickstarter project. And so, he's planning for maybe up to an additional $1,500 for to go to those increased shipping costs, which can be a tough pill to swallow. And I know some creators are really interested in reaching out and capturing an international market. And so when they look at, it's going to cost me, $23 to ship this graphic novel outside of the U.S. to Australia or the U.K. or some other places, and they think like, I can't charge that. My book is only $20. Like I can't charge more than the book for shipping. But if you don't do that, know that that's going to come out of your overall profits. And so these are some challenges that a lot of creators have come up with. So make sure before you launch that you are taking into account shipping and making sure that you're doing your work, because you want to get this right and you don't want to make that mistake that have cost a lot of creators. All right, the next post-Kickstarter profit killer for comic creators is stretch goals. Russell Nolte, veteran of many successful campaigns, including one that's live right now. I think he just actually got funded. Congrats on your latest success, Russell. Ichabod is on Kickstarter right now, right? And rocking and rolling. But stretch goals, he said stretch goals are almost always profit killers, and any merch that isn't pins or prints that fit inside the book are profit killers for him. I see this a lot. A lot of creators get crazy with the stretch goals, right? And they're adding pins and prints and buttons and stickers and all this stuff. But note that sometimes all that might do is just create extra work for you. Ben Lacey, who also has a project that's live on Kickstarter right now, and he said that I offered a free print to all my physical backers, but I don't think that anyone cared, and it was just an extra cost, especially because it was a very small print run. So, stretch goals can be very effective. And you do look at some of the biggest Kickstarter creators out there. You look at the kind of campaigns that Brian Pulido runs for Lady Death and his other series, where he has a massive stretch goal plan and program. But one of the things that I want you to make sure that you're taking in mind is scroll up Brian Pulido's pages or down his Brian Pulido's pages and look at the size of the team that he lists on that page and how many people he has on his team that are helping him coordinate and fulfill and manage all of that elaborate stretch goal plan, right? And so those campaigns do make a lot of money, but it's a ton of work on the fulfillment side. And that's another thing that creators don't always take into account, is that the more complexity you add with your stretch goals, the more time it's going to add to fulfillment. And we all know time is money. And the more money it takes to fulfill your campaign, well, the less profitable that is. And so definitely want to keep your stretch goals in mind and make sure that that is not something that's going to take you so far off your game. Travis Gibbs in the house. What's up, Travis? He shared an issue that came up with him. He said, I just found out my exclusive store cover came fully damaged and I have to replace 50 books today. And that means a reship and a reprint. Ouch. That's a big time bummer, Travis. Hopefully you can get your printer to print and ship those directly to the store next time. And if they show up damaged, maybe that'll be on the printer's fault, and they'll replace it. Sorry to hear that, man. That sucks. But on the flip side, I did see a couple of creators and a couple of retailers actually rave about your last Voodoo Nations launch, and how you did a great job reaching out to retailers. So I hope you don't let this setback discourage you from, going after it and making those retailer connections, because long term goodwill is going to be worth it for you. All right, number 3, in terms of post-Kickstarter profit killers for comic creators, this is an oversized items, okay? Oversized items. And you'll notice that a lot of these things sort of interconnect and interweave. One of the reasons why oversized items can be a profit killer is because they absolutely wreck your often wreck or change your fulfillment plan or your shipping plan. And so, oversized items, especially oversized prints, I've seen, it happens less nowadays, but in the past, you see creators use a stretch goal strategy. Hey, every backer is going to get 11 by 17 print. Now, 11 by 17 prints, like those are the most common prints you see at conventions. People love them. People do great by them. But man, they are a pain to actually ship. And you're going to have to use a different packaging to ship an 11 by 17 print than you would a hardcover graphic novel or a comic book or something like that. And so when creators don't consider the full delivery system of how they're going to get these oversized items to their backers and don't do that research on shipping and other things, it can be a problem. Honestly, the single biggest mistake that I ever made in crowdfunding was the result of an oversized item. We made, me and the Seas for Cthulhu team and I and Skeleton Crew Studios, we work with them to create probably the coolest thing that we've ever made. It was literally a 6-foot Cthulhu based on our Cthulhu design. So here's the 12-inch. So I want you to imagine this times about 5.5. It was massive. Massive. But we didn't want it to be one of those like oversized plush, like oversized stuffed dolls that, they arrive and you pull them out of the box and they just flop down. You've all seen those bears that are like, hey, it's an oversized stuffed bear, but they just actually just flop. They don't really have any structure to them. They don't stand up or sit up properly. We wanted ours to be formidable, like a Cthulhu should, right? And so we had our manufacturer build in some internal structure into it so that it would stand up and sit upright and be great. The problem with that, though, is that structure meant that it couldn't collapse to a box small enough for the post office to ship. And so we immediately had to look to USPS or FedEx to ship, and their shipping rates were astronomical. We're talking like $200 to ship the thing, which was way more than we had planned based on the weight. The things they only weighed like 20 pounds. They weren't that or less. They weren't even that heavy. It was just the size that made it nearly impossible to ship without a big loss. And so that was definitely a big challenge that we had to work through. And so something that you definitely want to consider as well. So oversized items, that's number 3. Definitely consider it. Definitely do your homework on that and think it all the way through to delivery. All right. Now, the 4th profit killer that a lot of members of my community pointed out is stuff that requires custom work. Now, a lot of times what I see creators do is they set their premium tiers as something that's going to, include, yes, the book and other things, but it will also include something that will require them to spend more of their time and more of their effort. And so Tim Larson, who's a super talented illustrator and storyteller, he offered to make a 5-page comic for their backers. And he charged what he thought was a good price for it, a premium price for it. He charged $399 for it. But he said it wasn't worth it. It was a huge time suck, and it actually hurt him and bred a little ill will between him and his backer, because it took him longer than expected to deliver. And he felt like by doing that, he was making himself more of a commodity, and that the backer was more interested in, him working for him than interested in Tim's campaign, which is what he launched the Kickstarter for. And so this is definitely something that you want to consider, and you want to make sure. Now, had Tim charged, say, $1,300 for the 5-pager or something, where it was a little bit more worth his time and energy and effort, and he could justify, allocating that time to it, then that would definitely be a different story. So you want to make sure that if you are offering custom work, one, limiting the number of custom things that you do can be a good activity, so that you don't suddenly have all of your time for after the campaign is over, time that you're going to need to actually spend in fulfillment. You don't want to suck all that time up by doing custom work, unless that's what you're hoping to do. So you can limit those in terms of the number of quantity, but then you also want to make sure that you're charging a premium for it, and you're charging what you're worth, and factoring in the fact that, hey, Kickstarter is going to take 10% off the top. Kickstarter and fees, 10% is coming off the top. So if you were already discounting your page rate, it's going to get technically discounted again. And then also know that you're going to have a lot of work to do after the campaign is over. So your time for custom work and things like that may actually be less. Another example of this, Jeff Weber, for his series, The Scientists, which was successfully funded on Kickstarter, he sort of called out the time cost of a pop-up card. He sort of, Jeff's been really good at doing like these dioramas and these sort of 3D with paper extras for his campaigns that are really cool, but he sort of made this handmade pop-up card as a stretch goal that required just a lot of his time to actually go and do all of them. And so it's definitely going to be something to consider. A lot of creators I found, seriously undervalue their time and the time it takes to do custom stuff. Even in some cases, even things as simple as, a quick head sketch and a signature, like that can add real time to campaigns. So you want to consider it carefully. Let me know in the comments if any of this stuff is resonating with you. Let me know which one of these things have maybe been hit with you. And if you have any ideas, please share. But I also want to just hit you up with number 5. And this is 5 of the top 5 post-Kickstarter profit killers for comic creators. And this one came up for a number of members of our community who called out variant covers. All right. And, Joseph Dewey said that he did a variant cover, which was as a stretch goal, and it was cool. He was great to do, but it ended up killing some of his profits because it was an extra SKU, an extra run, and I guess he didn't feel it moved the needle significantly for them. David Taylor is another example creator who said that he's enjoyed doing his variant covers, but they haven't seemed to move the needle for him at all, and didn't seem to find that his audience was really interested in variants, and that maybe next time, instead of investing in a full variant cover, he would look at doing a print or something else instead. So now your mileage may vary. I do know some creators who do extraordinarily well with variant covers. I will tell you that if you can work with a printer, such as Comic Impressions or Print Lore or the fine folks out over at Trivision, those are all creators or all printers that I work with and that I've done variant cover print runs with. You can actually, as long as you're printing enough copies and you're working with a printer that will gang print, so it's not like you're printing 2 completely different books, but they're doing one print run for the interior pages and then just a small additional upcharge for every additional cover that you add, it can actually be a very smart thing to include variant covers. But this is something that you're going to want to test with your audience, and maybe don't go overboard with until you've proven that there is a strong market for variant covers for you. Otherwise, it can provide some killing to your profits. All right. So there you have it. There are the top 5 post-Kickstarter profit killers for comic creators. Number 1 with a bullet was shipping. Number 2, stretch goals. Number 3, oversized items. Number 4, custom work. And number 5, variant covers. And Brett Giuliano jumped in. He said, a variant cover was a downfall for my last Kickstarter. I did a split run on my books, so it didn't cost me extra, but I've only moved 2 of them since the Kickstarter ended. Yeah, and I know sometimes, it can be tough after the Kickstarter is over, continuing to move product, especially with conventions going, away for most of us. And so again, that's something that post-launch profit strategy is going to be absolutely key for all of us to keep that funding coming in. Let me know in the comments or after this video is over, if you're watching the replay, did I miss one? Did I miss a post-launch, a post-Kickstarter profit killer that comic creators have faced? Or if you want to add any examples or flavors, or maybe how you overcome any of these profit killers in the past, please let me know. I'd love to hear your experience. And again, I would just want to remind you that we do have a new free training coming up, how to raise significantly more funding after your Kickstarter is over without a lot of time and effort. If you'd want it, just put the word post-launch somewhere in the comments, and I will follow up with you and make sure you get it. All right. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to see what you launch next.